All right, we're here. It's finally time. I'll show you the Maverick. A lot of you already know that I've gotten this car. I might have shown a quick picture of it early on, but it's here. It's real. Where do we start? Where are we going to start on this? I guess the quick backstory is my my oldest son sent me a link back in December. It was on a Facebook marketplace that was out in the state of Indiana. We're in southwestern Pennsylvania. And over the holidays, I told him, if you could arrange to get that car, go out and get it. At the time, I think I was still out in southern Arizona. But I told him, for the price and for what it is, if he can make the arrangements and go get it, to go get it. And he did. So here it is. Let's have a look over here. The last I can tell that it was legally on the road was, before it was in Indiana. Obviously, it was in North Carolina, and that is in 2005. So, at least 16 years ago, it was inspected in the state of North Carolina. And the story is that somewhere after it got into Indiana, the story, as I understand it, the car got repainted and well, obviously the clear coat has started coming off of it. It's off of most of it. The clear coat is completely gone off the hood and the roof, and it's still on the sides. But so the paint job is less than desirable on it. So at some point when it was Indiana, I think they still drove it. I think it was still used in Indiana for a while, but yeah, I think that's where it got the repaint, and it was run for a while. But it's sat in somebody's garage, probably after the paint job started going bad. Uh, Maybe they parked it and thought, well, we need to get back into it and fix it. I don't know what happened there, but it has been sitting for a long time. Uh, the pictures from the original ad, it was sitting out in somebody's yard. I think it sat in the garage for almost 10 years. Then it was pushed outside, and and it sat outside for a couple years, and it had all the green stuff growing on it, and just debris from the trees and stuff. It just had a coating of, that black stuff that gets all over, all over the windows, and uh, it was really filthy. So my oldest son went out, rented a tow dolly, uh, got it all hooked up and got on his way with it, and stopped at a car wash, and at least blasted like the heavy stuff off of it. And there was stuff, really heavy. On this side of the car was all green, and on the back, it was just terribly green colored. So at least knocked the heavy stuff off of it, and he brought it back, and he did do a little bit more cleaning up on it to get some more of it off. But now it's been sitting collecting dust. So why did I want this car so badly that I asked such a big favor from my oldest son to go get it? Was, I've had, back in the day, one of these was my first car. Well, my first legal car. It was a 1970 Maverick. And I went on, through the years, I went on to have 3 more after that. That's 4. This is my 5th one. So I kind of know just about every nut and bolt on them, and I just really like the early 2-door models. And they only made these here, they actually started making them in 1969, halfway through the year, but it was for the new 1970 model. So the 70 and 71 had these tiny bumpers. I think starting in 72, they made started making some changing. They put some uprights on the, certainly by 73, and I think they put the turn signals in the grill, not down below here, but they changed. These only 70 and 71 are these very, very early ones, but not only is it getting harder to find, they're usually missing a lot of things, like the emblem on the grill, or the grills are cracked, and the bumpers are all bent up or rusty, and it was a real complete car in my view from the pictures. In the body, despite the paint, the body's still nice and straight. It's hasn't been crunched or wrecked or anything. if it had been, it's been repaired. So, and this all came with the sport mirrors, tinted glass. So yeah, it's not perfect, but I think it's drivable. I don't know what to do. If there's any way to get that clear coat off of there, being as it's already letting loose, maybe a really, really high pressure washer will take a lot more of it off. Speaking of which, he just bought a really good pressure washer. So I am going to try it out, and hopefully, most of that'll come off. I'm not counting on it, but so I did buy brand new tires for it, and we're putting all new brakes on it. Where are we at here? Got new suspension. Right now I'm sitting here getting the new tie rods together here on the bench, and just kind of getting them close to what the old one, as far as the length goes. Getting it close to where the old ones were at before I put them on the car, and then it'll have to get fine-tuned and get a front end alignment. But where are we at here? I've already got the back brakes done. I don't have the wheels back on this side yet. What I'm waiting for is, let's go back around here for a second. So the car does have 4-wheel drum brakes, which are adequate if they're kept up. A lot of people do the disc brake conversion. The other thing original about this car is it's a 6-cylinder car, and it still has the original, the 6-cylinder cars came with the 4-bolt lugs. The V8 cars came with 5 lug. So this is still an original 6-cylinder. I'll open that hood in a minute. It's still an original 4-lug car, has the original engine still in it. So the originality, the completeness of it is really what appealed to me. Yeah, so there's all new hardware, and the rear drums are both done. The only thing I lack here is the brake lines that go to each side. They get rusty and they just need replaced. And the rubber brake hose, this goes up to the main line. It comes back from the front, and they get all dried and cracked. So it's got a new hose and get new metal lines. But I'm waiting to put this on as I am the front. Let's go back over here a minute. Here's one of the old lines. There's up here. There's one on each side, one for each wheel, and we have those brand new here. But I'm waiting to put the brake lines on it because I got a new master cylinder for it, and what I want to do is when I take the old one off, I'm going to blow through the lines to blow any old brake fluid, and I'm going to flush them with brake cleaner, blow them out again, and then the lines will be all blowed out and clean. Then I'll go ahead and hook up the new hoses, which go to all the wheel cylinders. The fourth one's probably over there laying on the floor. So, inside the brakes, that's what kind of, the new master cylinder hooks to the brake pedal. That pumps the fluid out. It goes through all the lines and out to each wheel. So there'll be all new brake cylinders. There's new adjusters, new springs, all new hardware, so that the whole braking system will all be refreshed and operating properly. So, I want to, the old tires on it, they had good tread, but they were dry, they were dry rotted and cracked. So I want to be running on safe, good tires. I want good, safe brakes. And outside of that, the other thing is we're putting all new suspension on it, not just those tie rods on the bench. Let's go down here a minute. We're still going to get to that engine compartment. I really like the original, the good old 6 cylinders, and it has the big 6. It had these came with a 170 cubic inch engine, yeah, a 200, or the optional 250. So this has the big 250. So where are we at here with the front suspension parts? I don't know what it is with my other shock absorber. It's here somewhere, but we're going from starting with the lower control arm, which has, there's a lot of bushings involved here. So for it to steer like it should when it was new, this is what's hooked up under, for the unibody, it starts with the control arm bushing, and then there's a ball joint. Okay, both of those are pretty bad shape, and which hooks to the wheel spindle, which has all your brakes in it and your wheel hooks too. So this is the lower control arm, and the upper control arm has a bunch of bushings too. This bolts up into the unibody, just like this bolts to the lower part. This bolts to the upper part. So one sits above the other, and yeah, that spindle hooks in between here. That's the lower ball joint and the upper ball joints right there. So it has a lot going on here. There's this arm pivots on the shaft. There's a bushing in here. There's a bushing in here. And then the ball joint out here. Well, all these are sloppy and dry rotted and worn out. And then the coil spring, which is over here, sits on the spring perch, and it has a bushing, and you can see that rubber is just all, just all coming apart. So what we have here is, where is it? Oh, it's over here. Let me get it. Crash, bang. So what we have here is the whole new assembly. It has, the new bushings in here, the new control arm bushings, the brand new ball joint, the new spring perch. And what I like about these new spring perches is they have these rubber pads that the spring actually sits on. The original ones didn't come with the rubber pads. And what that can do is, dry metal to metal can squeak. So that will help eliminate any squeaking. And the coil spring itself, and new sway bar bushings. The coil spring itself, same thing here. I have a inside an internal coil spring compressor in here right now. You have to compress them to get them out and to get the thing back together. But this will sit up on that spring perch like that, and on that rubber, and you can see this upper plastic is just, well, a section of it was missing, and it's all cracked over here and over here. But that plastic piece is actually a coil spring. They call that a coil spring isolator. And same thing, you want to make sure you have good, that those are good as well, because same thing, if they get all cracked and are missing, metal against metal, every time your car goes up and down, you'll hear a squeak and squeak, squeak. So you want to make sure these isolators are not you. You want to make sure. No, I want to make sure that this is all proper and no squeaking. Now, I'm not putting new springs in, and don't tell me I should. Springs are, coil springs are really, really good about holding up over time. And they're, back in the day, there used to be four different coil springs available. There was one with just the standard 6-cylinder, the one with 6-cylinder with air conditioning, the V8 without air conditioning, and the V8 with air conditioning. And what that was is, all those situations, there's a little bit more or less weight up front because of those different arrangements. So they put different coil springs in so that the height of the car was just right. So, and I think they eventually narrowed that down to, there was one for the 6-cylinder without air conditioning. I think they used the same coil spring with the 6-cylinder with and the V8 without, because they were just close enough. And then the V8 with air conditioning, because that whole air conditioning system is, if you had all the components up together, it's probably, 100, 150 pounds. Wild guess there. But, that adds a little bit of weight to the car. So they put different tension or, different strength or different length springs in it. And, heck, they even sold aftermarket things where you could put these weird screw-in things that as they screwed in, they expand it a little bit, that you could actually raise the height of your car slightly. Or they also make an outside type of clamp that you put one on each side and clamp them, and you can compress it a little bit if you want to lower the ride of your car a little bit. So heck, some people even cut a section. They'll go around one revolution. They'll cut it off, cut a whole coil off, just to get that cool, a little bit of a lower, cool looking stance. So they haven't lost their spring, believe me. They're still, the car's still going to set, have a nice stance to it. What gives you the nice ride is, and I'll find it. New shock absorbers, the sway bar bushings, all the components being tight and or tight as in not having a bunch of play, because it's all worn out. It's it's pulling to one side and it's steering all over the place. So it got all kind of play in the steering wheel. When the front suspension is all like it was when it was new, and good shocks and everything, it should have a really, really good ride and handle really nice. So, all right, so that's what's going on over here. But here's what the done side is looking like. So yeah, there's the upper control arm and the spring perch up there, and the new shock absorber is inside the spring. And down here is the new, I've not yet tightened up that stabilizer link bushing. There's the lower control arm and ball joint. Lower control arm goes up into there, and that bolt there is on a eccentric. You actually loosen that bolt up, and as you rotate it, it pulls the it aligns the wheel vertically. Oops. All right, and yeah, back behind there is the new tie rod end and sleeve, and the other end of the tie rod. And I do have the idler arm for up in there and something else. Yeah, so these wheels have been around a while, and they got some bad spots in them, but it's what was on it, and that's all we have right now. And I just didn't want to spend I was looking at wheels, and I just don't want to put a fortune into this thing. I want to make it a driver. I just want to get it mechanically back. Tires, brakes, steering, everything. I just want to get it healthy again for now. So let's open the hood. And let's back up to when my son first brought this back from Indiana, because he did try to get it running. And he has some knowledge and skill. He's messed with little gasoline engines and is familiar with like carburetors and how important it is for fuel systems and spark plugs. And he's, fuel systems to be clean and functioning right. So he's done some tinkering, and he's messed with a couple of his first vehicles a little bit. They were older. He has a little knowledge, but we did do a fair share of phone consultation. All right, let's put the light up there. So there it is. There's the original little 6-cylinder. Another nice thing about this car, which I didn't even notice, here's a big plus to me that I didn't even notice when he until he got it back here and was taking some pictures and sending them to me, that it's a car that has factory air conditioning. And in 1970, I think I seen a statistic where only 18% of Mavericks had factory air. So I was pretty happy that this one had it. And this might not seem like a big deal to you, but the fact that it has the original air cleaner on it is that is really big to me, because these cars and still to this day, people will get these cars and they want to turn them into little hot rods. So they'll pull that 6-cylinder out of there, they'll put a V8 in it, or even with the original 6-cylinder. It was a cool thing to do back in the day, even when these were not that old. People take that old thing off of there and they put a cool little chrome air cleaner on it just because it was cool. So it's amazing that this air cleaner has actually survived, because it's been through a number of owners. People have worked on it and fixed it up, and but nobody has replaced that air cleaner with a chrome one. So the fact that that's still there I'm really happy about. Again, to me, it's about the originality of the car and how complete it is. If it's, to find that air cleaner somewhere, uh, I'm sure they're around it. Not like they used to be. You really got to find the Maverick guys and collectors and stuff to find that out. You might notice the distributors apart down here. We'll get to that in a minute. I'm embarrassed because this thing has me stumped right now. The reason I'm embarrassed is this is so basic, and I've had Ford previous to this. The fact that it doesn't run better is embarrassing. So my son, he got it back here, and looking at it and thinking, well, nothing's missing and things seem to be in place. We wanted to see, curious if it would even, what it would do. Put the key in it and turn it. What happens, right? Well, the old battery was dead. He put the battery charger on it, and surprisingly, it did take somewhat of a charge, enough to turn it over a little bit, and sure enough, it tried. It turned. I mean, it didn't try to start. Well, it wasn't trying to fire, but it did turn over. But the battery gave up pretty quickly, so he ran out and put a new battery in it, and it does turn over like it should now. It still doesn't want to run right. It barely wants to run at all. So the big thing that these cars, these older cars that's been sitting for a long time, these old carbureted cars, is one of the early things to go is after they've been sitting for a while is the fuel. And the fuel goes bad, and the first thing is it starts clogging up the tiny jets that are in the carburetor. And look, that looks like a pretty nice clean new carburetor, doesn't it? The original one, the accelerator pump on it was clogged. Well, it was dry rotted, and it didn't pump at all. So when that piston goes down, now on this one you can actually hear. I mean, I did try rebuilding it. I got a rebuild kit. I cleaned the other one up as best I could, and I'm blowing through all the different passages through it and trying to get a wire. The clogged ones, trying to get a wire to go through them, and there's one in there that it's L-shaped, and you can't get a wire in the one. You just can't. Without drilling into it and having to replug it. So I just could not get fuel to flow through that accelerator pump circuit. So I said, the heck with it. These stupid little things aren't cheap. But I went ahead and got another one, and it does squirt when the accelerator pump does squirt fuel into it. But nah, that's still not good enough. But let's back up from that, because what happened was, after he got the battery and got it to turn over, I says, well, let's check spark. It's getting a spark. Well, we knew the spark and fuel were the two big things that we got to make those things come back. And I think before we even looked at the spark, I said, well, gotta dump some gas in that. No, actually, he did that on his own. He came back here and he just dumped a gallon of gas in the gas tank, and all of a sudden it was running out on the floor. So, and there wasn't any holes in the tank. Wait, I need a light. Let's get our light. What happened was, the fuel pickup thing back here, okay, there it is, the fuel pickup unit, where that electrical plug goes on, one of the plugs had completely rusted and had come off, and the plug was actually sitting dangling here. It wasn't even hooked up. But there's two terminals that goes on to. One of them was completely missing, and it was running out of that hole. So right out of the gate, first thing was I ordered that, so it has a brand new, and there's a screen, there's a sock screen in there to, that's the first filter. When anything in the tank, that screen should catch it. And so I replaced that, and then put some more gas back in it. And I says, okay, turn it over and see if any gas is coming out. So then I told him to take this fuel line off the carburetor. and turn it over a few times and see if any gas starts pumping out of there. And he turned it over and cranked it and cranked it and cranked it, and nothing ever did come through. So I said, okay, let's go down to the fuel pump. Maybe that line is just clogged, or I don't know. So the pickup, the line that comes from the tank, we took that off, and he fished it down through the car, and he put that line down in a jug of clean gas. And turned it over and over and over. Still nothing was coming out. So I said, okay, obviously it has a bad fuel pump too. So now we have a new fuel pump. Well, then all of a sudden, okay, it started spitting a lot of gas out. I'm like, okay, now we got that solved. And actually hooked it back up to the tank and turned it over and kept on cracking. So, I mean, it is pumping fuel from the tank now. Now, there was a little bit of old gas in the tank, and he dumped only 1 gallon of gas, of new gas in it. But surprisingly, that gas came through, even though it was half of it was old gas, it still started up. It ran pretty rough, but it fired up, and it would sit here and idle. And I was kind of amazed that, that's a pretty poor solution of gas. But it would sit here and idle. So I thought, well, it must not have been that much old gas in the tank. I came along, and when I got back, I dumped 5 gallons of clean gas in it. So it should have made that solution even stronger, even better gas. Now, I should have just drained all of it, and I still might, because it's still giving me problems. Now, so knowing that it will run on that gas, not the best, but it will run on that gas. I thought, okay, let's take care of this. Oh yeah, back to the spark issue. So okay, now we were getting gas. We gotta back up. It was getting gas, but it still wouldn't run. And they had one of these conversion kits in here. The points didn't have points anymore. Somebody had taken them out and put in some little upgraded. It's like a electronic ignition kind of upgrade for in here. It was just a weird red little module, and ran the wire out to the coil, and but he wasn't getting any spark. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know about that thing. Just go to the auto parts store and get new points, points and condenser. Put it back the way it's supposed to be. Again, where are they at? Hang on. Like, that was a real bright idea, because it's still not running, is it? Oops, don't lose that screw. So he did put new points in it, and he's never dealt with points before. That was another phone consultation. He took that old unit out, that electronic ignition unit out, put the points in, adjusted them properly over the phone. And actually, when I got back, I checked that. He got him amazingly close, actually. And so he did that, and it was getting spark. And at that point, he tried it, and because it still had the old carburetor on it, and it wasn't pumping gas, but it was still getting gas to the bowl. I told him, just pump the gas pedal. Just pump it, pump the heck out of it anyway. Maybe some will get through or whatever. I said, yeah, pump it 3 or 4 times and try it. And I tried a wee little bit. I said, pump it 3 or 4 more times and try it. It tried a wee little bit. And I said, okay, pump it about 20 times, as fast as you can. And he did, and it actually started. And you couldn't really give it any gas to rev it up, but it sat there and idled. And it sat there and idled for a few minutes. And I said, okay, better shut it off. Yeah, because we had the radiator drained at the time, because that was back when there was pretty cold weather. And we just hadn't gotten around to putting antifreeze in it. So back to, gosh, where are we at? So back to today. I mean, it would try to start, and it'll spit and sputter and kind of try. It just won't run. It just won't run. So I got this all back apart because I've heard of people getting point sets that were just poor quality. I don't know if they made the points themselves. The contacts were just a weird material or something about them. They ground it out, or I don't know. So I took these off and really looked at them, and I filed the points anyway. And I just right now I'm at a standstill because another thing I just kind of dawned on me too, because the spark it seemed like it would come and go. You know, 1 minute it would seem like it got good spark, and then it would get a weak spark. So I'm like, well, what's up with that? I thought, well, maybe the coil's going out. So I went and put a brand new coil on it, and it did seem to get better, but it seems like it improved, but it's still intermittent. Then I got to thinking, what about the distributor itself? What about those the distributor shaft bushings? You know, how much play? You know, how much play is in that? Because yeah, that's kind of borderline, because yeah, I don't like that, because there's just like the spark plugs have a gap. That rotor going around, you know, inside the cap to all those points, you know, that gap should be accurate and even, you know, as that goes around. So that's the same thing as your spark plug gap being gapped properly. If there's play in this bushing, which there is some, you know, the gap can be smaller on one side, and as it comes around, it could be larger on the other side and smaller, and you can have variation in your gap. So I don't know. I think while it's apart, I might just yank this distributor out and put new bushings in it. No, I won't even bother. Back in the day, I would have done that. I'm just going to order a whole new distributor. I'm going to get about $75 at O'Reilly Auto Parts. But this one wants 104. O'Reilly wants 75. So O'Reilly's going to get my business on this one. And I don't know if this vacuum advance is even operating. Would be operating properly. You know, the diaphragm in there could be bad, and I mean, that shouldn't cause it to not start, but just it's another one of them things just to get out of the way. If I want this thing running its best, I want to know that that's a fresh diaphragm working. I want to know that these bushings are, you know, not worn. So I might just go ahead and do that before I fight with this any longer. Just go and get that distributor replaced. One more thing. Another very, very critical thing is the compression test. I did do a compression test on it, and amazingly, and much to my pleasure, I'm very pleased, it has very healthy compression. And, you know, it looks, I don't know, it might have been rebuilt at some point, but overall, it, you know, kind of looks original. You know, it has some patina going on here, and but I think ideally this has 8-to-1 compression, and that should be right around 150 psi. So they checked from, and as they wear out, the compression across all 6 of them should not vary by more than 10%. So we had 140, 145, 145, 150, 150, and 145. So that's, you know, for supposed to be 150, that is all. I'm saying this thing is still very, very healthy. As far as that tells me, all the piston rings are good. That tells me all the intake and exhaust valves are good. That tells me the timing chain, you know, that the valve train is still in time with the piston, with the crankshaft. So all that is good. That's all that has to be good for it to get good compression readings like that. So where are we at? That's exhausting. And it's frustrating. It really should kind of fire and run fairly well at this point. Um, but I have the distributor part. I'm not going to try it right now. I will get back to probably this weekend. Uh, I'm going to get back to getting this, getting to the bottom of this. I'm going to start with that fresh distributor, I think. And I did check the ignition timing as well, and it's, the rotor's right on number one. And I had the distributor just snugged where I could turn it a little bit, and it doesn't seem to matter what I do, so I kind of put it right back in its original location. So I've checked those kind of things. I mean, my first one, I rebuilt it. Here's the kind of mechanic I used to be anyhow. I used to work at Fairman Automotive Machine Specialties, or Fairman Racing Engines. And after working there a couple of years, my first Maverick, it had, the engine was getting really tired in it. And I asked my boss, I says, is there room in the work schedule? Can we rebuild my engine? And he called me Davey. He said, yeah, Davey. He says, you want to do your Maverick engine? We'll get her through. So we used to go to lunch every day for an hour. And one day after he told me that, one day I stayed at the shop. And these are so easy to work on that, I mean, as soon as they pulled out, I mean, I got busy. I dropped the exhaust, I dropped the exhaust pipe, the motor mount bolts, the radiator hoses, the radiator out. There's only a couple wires, that go to a wire that goes to the coil, the temperature setting units, the alternator. Jumped under it, got all the torque converter nuts off of it, and the torque converter bolts. Did I say motor mount? And had the hood off. And when they got back, now I needed to handle something because I didn't have the engine out, but I was sitting there waiting, and within that lunch hour, I had that engine ready to come out, and I think I needed help pushing it up the grade to get it underneath the engine hoist. I think that's what it was. And keep in mind that was, like 40 years ago. So I had the engine out ready to come out in under an hour. The dogs are barking. Maybe it's the Amazon delivery guy here. So once I had that engine out, I mean, I did all my own work too. I tore the engine down, put it in the hot tank, boiled the block and the head, the valve cover, the oil pan, I mean, all those parts. Bored and honed it. Well, actually, I didn't bore it. That is so old school. Ever since they come up with power honing machines, you hone them the whole way. I mean, 30 over. That's what we went with that engine. You rough it out with one set of stones, with roughing stones. You leave a couple thousandths in there, and you go after, you start roughing it. You go down the line, and by the time you get the last one done, the first one is cooled down a little bit because honing does make some heat with the power hones anyway. Once they're all roughed out, you leave 3 or 4 thousandths in them maybe. By the time it cools down, it's probably another thousandths or two. You put in your finishing stones, and you go and you finish them. And so they're honed out start to finish. They've been doing that way for decades. So when somebody says bore and hone, well, believe me, they don't really mean boring. If you're still using a boring bar, you're in a dinosaur shop. So anyway, resize the rods, grind the crankshaft. I didn't regrind the crankshaft. That was a whole other game in its own. Another guy in our shop did that. Rebuilt the head on new valve guides, competition valve job, new valve springs, of course, all new gaskets, cam lifters, push rods, blah blah blah. So I mean, I'm capable of rebuilding this thing. The fact that I can't seem to get it running is, the way I'm struggling is quite embarrassing. Quite embarrassing. So, anyway, we'll be back. I might not come back until I do have it running. Okay. So here, if I see this hole down here, okay, That's where the master cylinder goes through to the brake pedal. And here's the old master cylinder. And she's, you know, got all kinds of really nasty contaminated brake fluid in it. And then there's the new one. So we are gonna say goodbye with the old, contaminated, and the seals in it, I'm sure, you know, aren't very good. So we're gonna go with this brand new one. And part of what I wanted to do here too, like I was saying before about the, you know, what's in the lines. Oops. This here, this one goes to the rear, which I've already blasted some brake cleaner through it, and sure enough, it come nasty stuff started coming, squirting out the back of the car where the line goes to. And then I gotta squirt through this other one here and let it blast all that old brake fluid out. It should come out of both sides to there. It should come out of it. So it comes out of that line, and then I'm safe to hook up to the rubber line that goes down to the brakes on that new wheel cylinder on there. So that way the entire brake system will have been completely flushed with all new hydraulic components, from the master cylinder to the 4 individual wheel cylinders that receive that. All new fluid, all new seals. The brake should work really good for a long time too. Stick that thing in there. Now, we should see evidence down below that something actually came out of there. Well, I guess that's why that's all wet looking there. I'd feel better if I actually seen it coming out. Let's see here, to come out of this side. Oh yeah, I think it's all, can't see as good because I put this tire on. Oh yeah, there's a puddle on the floor here. So, alright, so them lines are flushed out good. Yeah, it would have came out that little hose there in that hex, where that hex is. Yeah, that's where that one goes. And this is all wet down here. A little bit on the car, and there's a nice puddle down below where that all sprayed out, and just, yeah, it's down here all over the place. I did get an assistant to witness the, I knew it was, but yeah, I'm just glad somebody actually watched, and there was really good flow, stuff was flying out. I got this line and that line all, all flushed out good, and I'm just gonna, the master cylinder, the new one's in. I'm just gonna let those air. How about this? I decided to get a little bit smarter and actually blow those out. Yeah, with the air hose. And I'm glad I did. Yep. There must have been a low spot in the back one because I kind of heard a burp. I heard actually I heard liquid all the way from the back. I heard a little splash or a little spray, and then I heard just all air. And then could hear air coming out both fronts. So, yeah, blasted brake clean through all those lines and compressed air. That's a completely flush system there. I did not get the suspension back together today, but really about an hour and a half I can have that mess all back together, and that's it. We'll be ready to bleed the brakes, and with the suspension on it we can go ahead and let it down off the jacks. I'm going to rough in that alignment, get it in the ballpark. I can actually get that fairly close, but I'm sure I'll still go get a front end alignment once we're up and running. Then that's it. The car will be all completely done off the jacks. That's going to be all completely done for now. And then I will have to come back and focus and say, hey, look, dang it, you are going to run, and you're going to run very, very well. We'll tackle that really soon. It's coming. I mean, when that's all that's left. When we got it where it can steer safely and brake safely, what's left to do but focus on is, hello, you are going to run. I don't care if I got to rebuild you. You're going to run. So that's my Maverick. that's it. We'll be back. We'll be back certainly with progress here in the next video. It should be down on the ground, and it should be running. It should be ready for a test drive like really, really soon. So, you know, come back and check it out. I'm kind of anxious to hear that 250 6-cylinder is capable of spinning them back tires. So we're gonna see if we can't maybe roll a little bit of smoke off that back wheel. We'll see what happens. The only unknown here too is the transmission. Knock on wood, let's hope the transmission's okay. All right, we'll be back soon. I'll see you.